the truth about why married women are the easiest prey. Stoicism. There's a brutal, unspoken truth about married women that most men don't see. It's a truth that makes them the easiest prey, not because they're weak, not because they lack morals, but because human nature is hardwired to seduce. No one wakes up one day and says, "I think I'm going to betray everything I've built." It happens in the smallest moments, innocent conversations, affectionate glances, the way her heart beats a little faster when she gets a text from someone other than her husband. Psychologists have been studying this for decades. They call it the slow erosion of boundaries, step by step, thought by thought, until one day she looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize the person staring back at her. So why are some married women so vulnerable to seduction? And more importantly, how do they justify it? That's exactly what we're about to reveal. Let's get started with the Women Stoic channel. With us. Number 1. The unspoken void. In today's world, we face challenges that test our relationships and personal identities. As men striving for success and growth, we must understand the dynamics of modern relationships and the psychological forces at play. One truth often goes unnoticed, but it's something we can't afford to ignore. Married women can become the most vulnerable prey when emotional needs aren't met. Understanding this vulnerability is crucial, not just for navigating relationships, but also for applying valuable Stoic life lessons that lead to healthier, more fulfilling connections. So, why do married women often find themselves seeking external validation, and how can we, as men, understand and respond? Let's dive into this complex but revealing topic. In the Stoic tradition, we are taught to embrace the philosophy of self-control, focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we cannot. This idea, rooted in teachings from great minds like Marcus Aurelius, highlights the importance of emotional discipline. When we apply this concept to relationships, particularly marriage, it becomes clear that an unspoken void can silently emerge when emotional intimacy wanes. This is the first of many layers of understanding that can illuminate why married women may seem more susceptible to external attention. The void often stems from a lack of connection with their spouse, where the everyday routine and predictability replace the emotional closeness once felt. Women, much like men, crave validation, and when their emotional needs aren't being met in the marriage, they may subconsciously seek fulfillment from elsewhere. This doesn't necessarily mean they are looking for an affair, but rather a moment of feeling truly seen and desired, something that may have diminished over time in their relationship. Moreover, when a woman finds herself solely defined by roles, such as wife, mother, or caretaker, her social identity can start to feel limiting. She might feel as though she's lost touch with the individual she once was, leaving her longing for the recognition of the vibrant woman she still is. This identity loss, coupled with a sense of emotional neglect, pushes her to look for validation from external sources, whether it's through social media, interactions at work, or even friendships that allow her to feel more like her pre-marriage self. For a married man trying to understand his wife's actions, it's essential to recognize that this isn't about a failure in character or a lack of loyalty. Rather, it's the result of a deeper need for emotional expression and acknowledgement that's not being met in the marriage. Routine can also be a silent killer in any relationship. What was once thrilling, the anticipation of seeing your spouse after a long day, the spark of discovery in every conversation, can over time become mundane. The excitement that once defined the relationship slowly fades into predictability. Women, just like men, can long for the novelty of feeling desired and valued again. It's a natural human instinct, one that transcends gender. When the element of surprise and emotional connection starts to dwindle, a woman may subconsciously search for ways to reignite those feelings of excitement and passion, especially if her marriage has fallen into a comfortable but emotionally detached routine. Now, as we reflect on these dynamics, it's important to remember the power of Stoic life lessons. Just as Marcus Aurelius once said, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. It's not just about understanding why these emotional gaps form, but also about how we choose to address them. For men, learning to win Stoic in this context means fostering a sense of emotional awareness, open communication, and genuine connection within our relationship. The key lies in breaking free from routine, acknowledging the emotional needs of our partners, and creating space for vulnerability and authenticity. By investing in the emotional depth of your marriage, you not only protect your relationship from falling into a void, but also nurture a stronger bond that resists the allure of external validation. This is the Stoic approach to love, recognizing the need for growth and working diligently to meet those needs, not just for ourselves, but for our partners as well. In modern life, where distractions and external pressures are abundant, it's easy for relationships to become transactional or superficial. But true connection, true love, requires effort and emotional investment. Understanding why married women may seek external attention and recognizing the emotional void that can exist in a marriage is the first step toward building a deeper, more resilient relationship. So, as you reflect on your own relationships, remember that the Stoic path isn't just about self-discipline. It's about mutual respect, growth, and the ongoing effort to meet each other's emotional needs, creating a foundation that doesn't crumble under routine or neglect. Number 2. The justification game. Imagine you're in a relationship built on trust, loyalty, and understanding. It's easy for a married woman to start justifying small, harmless-seeming actions that, over time, can threaten the foundation of her marriage. This gradual slip happens through the justification game, where her mind rationalizes actions that don't align with her moral compass. For instance, flirting with someone outside the marriage might seem innocent, but the mind begins to justify it as harmless, bridging the gap between actions and moral beliefs. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Emotional affairs are often the first step, and they're harder to recognize than physical ones. They blur the line between what's seen as harmless and betrayal, and once emotional boundaries are crossed, physical boundaries often follow. This creates a dangerous cycle where justifications for behavior escalate. Ask yourself, how often do you justify actions that don't align with your values, like staying in touch with an ex or flirting? A Stoic mindset helps us take responsibility for our actions. Stoics believe that happiness doesn't come from external factors, but from how we respond to them. By focusing on what we can control, our thoughts and actions, we can align with our values and resist the urge to justify harmful behavior. The key to maintaining integrity is recognizing when we're crossing boundaries and holding ourselves accountable. One of the reasons emotional affairs are so dangerous is that they provide an illusion of connection and validation. In a marriage, emotional intimacy is often expected, but it's not always easily nurtured. Over time, if a woman feels neglected or unappreciated, she may look for emotional validation elsewhere. It can start innocently, just as a need for attention or appreciation, but it quickly becomes a dangerous, slippery slope. Emotional connections with someone other than a spouse can fill a void. offering a sense of fulfillment that might be missing in the marriage. This creates a powerful attraction to that person, and once the emotional boundaries are blurred, it becomes easier to justify further steps. It's the same psychological principle we see in other areas of life. The more we justify something, the more likely we are to engage in it. As you reflect on this, think about how important it is to understand and define your personal boundaries. What does loyalty mean to you? What are the actions and behaviors that, for you, cross the line? Stoicism teaches us that we have control over our thoughts and actions. It's not about preventing feelings or temptations from arising, but rather about how we respond to those feelings. A Stoic approach to relationships is about taking responsibility for our choices and holding ourselves accountable for the commitments we've made. It's about recognizing when we're justifying actions that don't align with our values and making a conscious decision to change course before it's too late. So, as you navigate your own relationships, consider this. Do you truly hold yourself to the standards you've set? Or do you find yourself justifying behavior that may ultimately hurt you or those you care about? As the Stoics remind us, happiness doesn't come from external validation or from escaping uncomfortable situations. True happiness comes from living in accordance with our values, from being true to ourselves, and from holding ourselves accountable for the choices we make. The true test of loyalty and commitment is not just about avoiding physical infidelity. It's about maintaining emotional integrity and resisting the urge to justify actions that don't align with the person you want to be. Are you ready to embrace this mindset and make sure that your actions match your values, or will you continue to play the justification game? The choice is yours. This really means a lot to us, and we're glad to have you here. Please share your thoughts, or simply leave a comment saying, "I'm Stoic," if you've experienced these Stoic lessons. Your participation is a powerful force that keeps us going. Number 3, the breaking point. The breaking point in any relationship is a powerful and often irreversible moment. It's that point where things shift and the consequences of actions become undeniable. Have you ever found yourself wondering how someone could do something they once swore they would never do? This is the essence of what we call threshold theory. It explains how, over time, one small step can lead to another and another, making the choices that once seemed impossible feel easier and easier. For example, in a marriage, the first time a woman seeks external attention might feel like a betrayal, but as she gets used to that violation, the next one feels less difficult. This happens because once a boundary is crossed, it becomes easier to cross it again. We all have our limits, but those limits shift when we don't confront them head-on. The longer a secret is kept, the harder it becomes to escape the cycle, and the more emotionally attached the person becomes to their action. Eventually, the emotional bond with another person can become stronger than the connection with the one they vowed to love forever. Think about the last time you broke a personal rule or boundary. How easy was it to do it again? It's a question many of us overlook in our relationships, but it's one that can have real consequences. The longer a woman feels emotionally neglected or unseen in her marriage, the more her emotional attachment to someone else can become stronger. She begins to see her husband less as her partner and more as the other man, the person who's not fulfilling her needs. This isn't about betrayal for the sake of betrayal. It's about a human need for connection, validation, and intimacy. So when the emotional bond with someone else takes root, it can overshadow everything, making it almost impossible to return to the way things were. This is why understanding the Stoic life lesson of self-discipline is so critical. High-value men recognize the importance of emotional control, not just for their own growth, but for the preservation of the relationships they cherish. A high-value man doesn't just focus on what's happening in the moment. He understands the consequences of his actions and works to maintain the emotional integrity of his relationships. If you don't make an effort to constantly engage and nurture your relationship, you risk creating that very breaking point where emotional bonds outside the marriage become stronger than the one you've worked to build. This is more than just an abstract theory. It's a story happening in modern relationships every day. Think of the countless examples you've heard of couples who drifted apart because they stopped caring for each other emotionally. It's the colleague who finds solace in casual conversation with someone at work, or the woman who begins to confide more in a friend than in her husband. It's the small, seemingly insignificant moments that build up until, eventually, they break through to something much bigger. So, ask yourself, are you actively building emotional connections in your marriage, or are you allowing the small violations of intimacy to pile up? The lesson here is clear. Once you hit that breaking point, it's much harder to repair things. High-value men understand this. They stay vigilant in their efforts to keep emotional connections strong, ensuring that the bonds they form never reach a point where the consequences become irreversible. It's a constant commitment to emotional honesty and vulnerability, qualities that protect the relationship and build its foundation for the long term. So, before you reach the breaking point, take action now. Protect your emotional integrity and your relationships by addressing any issues early on. Don't let small violations snowball into something you can't come back from. Number 4, the need for validation. Have you ever noticed how, in relationships, the simplest gestures can make a world of difference? A compliment, a kind word, or even a moment of attention can shift the way someone feels about themselves. But what happens when those small gestures are missing? What happens when someone, especially a married woman, starts to feel invisible or unappreciated in their relationship? The truth is, this feeling of neglect can create a deep emotional void, one that can push them to seek validation from others, and in doing so they may cross boundaries they never thought they would. Understanding this dynamic is key to understanding not just human nature, but how to navigate relationships with wisdom and awareness. Let's dive into why the need for validation can be so powerful and how Stoic Life Lessons can guide us in handling it. When a woman feels unappreciated or invisible in her marriage, the hunger for validation becomes all-consuming. This isn't about vanity or insecurity. It's a human need. The need to feel valued, seen, and heard is universal. In a world that constantly moves at a fast pace, with people being bombarded by distractions, it's easy for anyone, man or woman, to feel neglected. For married women, this neglect often manifests when they feel that their efforts at home, in raising children, or in supporting their husband go unnoticed. This sense of being taken for granted can slowly erode their self-worth. When you stop feeling valued in your own home, it's natural to look for affirmation elsewhere. A compliment from someone outside the marriage, a genuine interest from another person, or even a simple acknowledgement can fill that empty space, making her feel alive again. It's not necessarily about wanting something more, it's about needing to feel important and noticed, especially when that sense of significance has been stripped away by the mundane routines of daily life. As a man, it's easy to overlook the emotional labor that your partner invests in the relationship and the family. But when that appreciation fades, the need for external validation becomes stronger. The unfortunate truth is that when a woman feels seen by someone else, even for a moment, it may seem like the validation she was missing at home. This feeling can quickly become addictive. The need for attention, the spark of excitement, and the novelty of being desired again can make it easier for her to justify actions that go against the boundaries she once set for herself. Think about it. When you're not receiving the appreciation you crave, it becomes much easier to make decisions you never thought you'd make. This shift can lead to deeper emotional connections with someone outside of the marriage. And before long, the lines between what's acceptable and unacceptable begin to blur. As Epictetus wisely said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This truth is vital in relationships, especially when facing emotional neglect. Men can avoid this by applying Stoic life lessons, cultivating self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and consistently acknowledging their partner's needs. Small gestures like offering appreciation and taking an active interest in her feelings strengthen the bond and prevent emotional voids from forming. In modern life, the need for validation is everywhere, even in workplaces, where compliments or acts of kindness can make someone feel valued. But relying on external validation instead of nurturing it within your relationship can lead to problems. A married woman craving attention may find herself seeking affirmation elsewhere, which threatens the relationship at home. The lesson for high-value men is clear. By being present, offering appreciation, and making your partner feel seen and heard, you reinforce the emotional foundation of your marriage. The goal isn't perfection, but consistent effort, filling her emotional cup before it runs dry. In doing so, you prevent your relationship from breaking down and ensure that it remains built on respect, understanding, and emotional care. By focusing on these meaningful acts of validation, you win Stoic in relationships, creating deeper, more connected partnerships. Number 5. Fear of loneliness. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt truly alone, even when you're surrounded by people? It's a powerful, almost suffocating feeling, isn't it? Now, imagine experiencing that sense of isolation in your marriage, the very place where you're supposed to feel most connected and understood. The fear of loneliness is a force so strong it can drive even the most devoted person to seek connection outside of their relationship. This isn't about betrayal at first. It's about the desperate need for emotional intimacy and human connection. If a woman feels emotionally neglected or insignificant in her marriage, the lack of validation and attention can push her to seek affirmation elsewhere. And while she may never have intended to break her vows, the yearning for emotional closeness can cloud her judgment. The Stoic mindset teaches us that we must control our emotions. But in the absence of emotional fulfillment, even the best intentions can be swayed. Loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's a force that can shape decisions in ways we don't always understand. The desire to feel valued, noticed, and cared for becomes so intense that seeking connection outside of the marriage feels like a relief, even if it threatens the relationship. As the great philosopher Seneca once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This speaks directly to the core of our emotional responses. When we feel neglected, it's easy to let emotions drive us to places we never thought we would go. But this is where the Stoic life lessons really come into play. We need to understand that loneliness, though natural, shouldn't dictate our actions. Instead of seeking external validation when feeling isolated, it's essential to develop the strength to confront those emotions directly. In today's world, where constant connectivity is supposed to keep us close, loneliness often emerges more powerfully than ever before. It's ironic, isn't it? With social media and technology keeping us in constant contact, one would think we'd never feel alone. But in reality, true emotional intimacy is harder to find than ever. So, what does this mean for relationships? Well, loneliness doesn't just appear overnight. It builds over time, especially in marriages where emotional connection has weakened. A woman might feel invisible, like her needs aren't being met, and over time that emotional neglect can lead her to seek attention elsewhere. This doesn't mean she's intentionally looking to betray her partner, but rather she's seeking the emotional validation that's missing in her life. And this, my friend, is where the problem lies. As loneliness becomes more overwhelming, it begins to cloud her judgment, making her believe that the temporary relief of external attention is worth the risk. What can we take from this? The key to navigating loneliness and its effects lies in understanding and addressing the emotional needs in your relationship before they spiral out of control. A strong, fulfilling marriage requires effort, constant emotional engagement, communication, and acknowledgement of each other's worth. If you want to foster stoic happiness, it's essential to recognize the importance of addressing emotional gaps before they widen. By taking the time to truly see and hear your partner, you can prevent the loneliness that often leads people to seek validation elsewhere. In this way, a high-value man understands the importance of emotional presence and vulnerability, both of which are foundational to a relationship that thrives, not one that crumbles under the weight of unmet needs. In modern life, think about the countless relationships that have fallen apart due to this very issue. People aren't cheating because they want to hurt their partners. They're doing so because the void they feel inside is too overwhelming to ignore. And while no one is perfect, the lesson here is clear. If we don't take the time to address the emotional disconnects that form, they'll only grow stronger, making it easier for someone to stray. So, how can you apply this wisdom? It's simple. Start by making sure your partner feels valued every day. Create space for emotional connection and be mindful of the small moments that can either nurture or weaken your bond. By doing so, you ensure that the fear of loneliness never becomes a force that pushes your partner away, but instead brings you closer together. If you're ready to stop being predictable, if you're ready to be the man she can't figure out, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment below. I'm the mystery she'll never solve. Number 6. The emotional disconnect. In the course of any long-term relationship, it's easy to see how, over time, emotional disconnect can quietly take root between partners. This slow-growing gap can leave someone, particularly in a marriage, feeling emotionally neglected or unfulfilled. When a woman no longer feels truly seen or supported by her husband, she may begin to look elsewhere for that emotional connection. It's a natural desire, after all. Everyone wants to feel understood, valued, and connected. And when those needs aren't met at home, it's tempting to seek out that support from someone else. We've all heard stories of relationships that have faltered because one partner felt emotionally distant, even though they were physically present. This emotional void can leave women vulnerable to emotional affairs, which are often the starting point of more serious issues like physical infidelity. Think about a modern example. Imagine a woman who spends years working hard at her job, managing household responsibilities and taking care of the children. She feels like she's been putting her all into these roles, but when it comes to her relationship with her husband, something is missing. She feels unheard and unimportant in their conversations, while her husband seems increasingly distracted. At a work event, she begins chatting with a colleague, someone who listens to her with genuine interest, makes her feel seen and valued. Over time, that emotional connection deepens, and before she knows it, she is emotionally attached to this colleague. Now, this wasn't the goal, but the absence of emotional fulfillment in her marriage created an opening, and the emotional disconnect allowed it to grow. This is where the Stoic life lesson comes into play. The Stoics believed that our happiness isn't dependent on external factors or people, but rather on how we react to them and manage our own thoughts. A Stoic mindset would encourage us to examine what's within our control, our actions, thoughts, and how we approach relationships. In this case, the emotional disconnect could have been addressed early on through open communication and active efforts to reconnect. If both partners had been more aware of their emotional needs and had taken proactive steps to nurture their bond, they might have prevented that void from ever growing. As the Stoics say, it is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. This emotional void, if not addressed, becomes more than just a fleeting feeling. It creates vulnerability. It's a vulnerability that high-value men and women recognize in themselves and others. They understand the importance of emotional fulfillment in their relationships and actively work to maintain it. For a high-value man, this means not just being a provider or protector, but also being emotionally present and engaged. And for the woman, it means knowing that her emotional needs are valid and that they must be communicated to create a healthy, balanced relationship. So, when you feel that emotional disconnect creeping in, whether it's with a partner, a friend, or even at work, what are you doing about it? Are you reaching out for the right kind of support, or are you just letting the distance grow? Reflecting on this is a powerful first step in maintaining healthy connections. The key is recognizing that emotional intimacy is just as essential as physical intimacy in a relationship. If you don't actively nurture that connection, it's easy for someone or something else to step in and fill that void. In the end, the lesson here is clear. To maintain strong relationships, you must pay attention to the emotional needs of yourself and your partner. Communication, honesty, and mutual support are the cornerstones of a healthy, fulfilling marriage. By learning from the Stoic perspective, you can find fulfillment within yourself, ensuring that you're not looking to others to fill what is missing internally. High-value men and women recognize that building and maintaining emotional intimacy is a critical part of long-term success in any relationship. So, ask yourself, what steps can you take today to bridge that emotional gap, whether in your marriage or your personal connections? The answer lies within your ability to be proactive, open, and engaged in nurturing the emotional bonds that keep you connected. So, why are some married women the easiest prey? Because they're not looking to cheat. They're looking to feel something they lost. And once they find it, walking away feels impossible. Not because they don't love their husbands, but because they've convinced themselves that what they've found is something they'll never get back at home. And once that belief settles in, nothing will ever be the same again. If you understand this truth, you hold power. The power to see what others miss, the power to read between the lines, the power to recognize the silent signals before they turn into something irreversible. And with that knowledge, you'll never be blind to the game again. 7 things women do that make men fall hard without even trying. In a world filled with noise and distractions, the most captivating women are the ones who don't seek attention. They simply attract it through their authenticity, confidence, and emotional depth. When a woman embodies the core principles of Stoicism, self-mastery, inner peace, and resilience, she becomes truly unforgettable. It's not about playing games or changing who you are. It's about embracing the powerful qualities within you that naturally draw others in. A woman who carries herself with grace, strength, and wisdom leaves an indelible mark on those around her. Not through grand gestures, but through quiet, undeniable power. And that's the kind of woman who doesn't just catch a man's eye, she stays in his mind and heart long after she's gone. Number 1, she masters the art of presence. There's something incredibly powerful about a woman who is fully present. In a world where people are constantly distracted, glued to their phones, lost in their thoughts, worrying about the past or the future, a woman who can be here, fully engaged in the moment, is a rare gem. And men feel it. Stoic philosophy teaches that the only thing we truly have is the present moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Give yourself a gift, the present moment." When a woman embodies this idea, when she engages with someone without distractions, she creates an atmosphere that makes a man feel valued and understood. She isn't checking her phone mid-conversation. She isn't half listening while thinking about what she's going to say next. She isn't somewhere else mentally. She's here with him. That kind of presence is magnetic. Men aren't just drawn to beauty, they're drawn to the way a woman makes them feel. And nothing makes a man feel more seen, more important, than a woman who is fully with him when they're together. It's not about grand gestures, it's the subtle things. Eye contact that lingers a second longer, an engaged expression, a genuine reaction to what he's saying. These moments, though small, make a man feel deeply connected. But presence isn't just about the way you interact with others, it's also about how you carry yourself. A woman who is present in her own life, who isn't constantly lost in overthinking or stress, radiates a certain energy. She walks into a room and you can feel her confidence, not because she's loud or attention-seeking, but because she's rooted in herself. She's not worried about the impression she's making or anxiously trying to be liked. She just is. That level of presence is both calming and captivating. Men are used to people being physically there but mentally elsewhere. So when a woman shows up fully, whether it's for a 5-minute conversation or an entire evening, it leaves a lasting impact. It tells him, "I'm here, I see you, I value this moment," and that's unforgettable. Number 2, she cultivates inner peace. Stoicism is an ancient Greek philosophy that teaches the importance of self-control, resilience, and virtue in the face of life's challenges. The central tenet of Stoicism is that we cannot control external events, but we can control how we respond to them. By focusing on our internal states, our thoughts, emotions, and actions, we can lead a life of peace and fulfillment, regardless of the chaos around us. Famous Stoic philosophers like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius all emphasize the idea that true strength comes from mastering our own minds, emotions, and desires, not from trying to control the world outside us. It's a philosophy rooted in wisdom, discipline, and tranquility, principles that have stood the test of time. In a world brimming with unpredictability and constant change, there is something incredibly magnetic about a woman who embodies inner peace. This isn't just about appearing calm on the outside, it's about being genuinely at peace within. This quality is so rare and powerful that it makes her irresistible, not just because of how she behaves, but because of the energy she exudes, a calmness that offers refuge in the midst of life's turbulence. A woman who cultivates inner peace is like a beacon of stability in a storm. She understands the core principle of Stoicism, that while we can't control external events, we have full control over how we respond to them. She doesn't react impulsively when faced with challenges or setbacks. Instead, she takes a moment to breathe, observe, and choose the most thoughtful and composed response. She's aware of her emotions, but she doesn't let them dictate her actions. This emotional intelligence is incredibly attractive because it signals maturity and self-awareness. For men, this quality is deeply appealing. Life demands so much from them: professional responsibilities, personal obligations, and societal expectations. The last thing they need is someone who adds to that emotional burden. A woman who can stay grounded, no matter how chaotic life may get, creates a sense of safety and comfort. Her inner peace doesn't just soothe her own soul, it has a calming effect on everyone around her, especially the man who finds solace in her presence. What makes her even more magnetic is the way she interacts with the world. She doesn't allow small inconveniences to disrupt her emotional balance. When things don't go her way, she doesn't crumble under the pressure or lash out in frustration. Instead, she remains composed and resilient. She might not be able to control every circumstance, but she knows that her response is what defines her. This resilience, this ability to remain unwavering even in the face of adversity, signals a strength that men deeply admire. It's not the absence of struggle, but the ability to remain unshaken by it that truly captivates them. A woman who embodies stoic wisdom and inner peace isn't just attractive in the traditional sense. Her presence feels like a refuge. It's a safe harbor in a world that often feels overwhelming. Men are naturally drawn to her, not only because of her beauty or grace, but because of the sense of steadiness she offers in an often unpredictable world. She becomes a source of strength and balance, a woman who makes life easier simply by existing in a state of serenity. And in a world full of noise, that kind of peace stands out. It makes her unforgettable. Ultimately, cultivating inner peace is one of the most profound ways a woman can become magnetic. By living in harmony with herself, she creates an environment where others feel safe, valued, and at ease. It's a quiet power that radiates from within and leaves an indelible impression on those fortunate enough to experience it. Number 3, she knows her worth. There's something undeniably attractive about a woman who carries herself with quiet confidence. Not arrogance, not entitlement, but a deep, unshakable understanding of her own worth. She doesn't beg for attention. She doesn't settle for less than she deserves, and she doesn't shrink herself to make others comfortable. She knows what she brings to the table, and that kind of self-respect is magnetic. Stoic philosophy teaches that external validation is fleeting. True confidence comes from within. Epictetus put it perfectly: no person is free who is not master of himself. A woman who knows her worth doesn't rely on a man or anyone else to define her value. She isn't looking for someone to complete her. She's already whole, and that changes the entire dynamic of attraction. Men are used to women who seek their approval, who try to mold themselves into what they think a man wants. But a woman who operates differently, who simply is herself unapologetically, is rare. She sets standards, not as a form of control, but as a reflection of her own self-respect. She doesn't tolerate disrespect. She doesn't chase someone who isn't willing to meet her halfway, and she certainly doesn't lower her expectations just to keep a man around. And here's the thing: when a woman truly values herself, she inspires a man to value her just as much. She doesn't need to demand respect, she naturally commands it. Men can sense when a woman is deeply secure in who she is. It makes her stand out. It makes her unforgettable. But knowing your worth isn't about being closed off or emotionally distant. It's about having the strength to walk away from what doesn't serve you and the confidence to attract what does. It's about recognizing that you are the prize, not in a way that diminishes others, but in a way that affirms your own self-respect. And when a woman carries that mindset, a man doesn't just admire her, he adores her. Number 4, she speaks with wisdom, not just words. Stoicism, though an ancient philosophy, remains incredibly relevant in today's fast-paced, modern world. At its core, Stoicism teaches that true happiness comes not from external circumstances, but from within. The Stoic mindset is about controlling our reactions to events rather than trying to control the events themselves. It's about accepting that life is unpredictable and often out of our hands, yet it's our inner strength, our ability to respond thoughtfully, and our capacity for self-respect that truly define us. This mindset remains just as powerful today as it was centuries ago, especially for women who are learning to live with confidence and self-worth in a world that often tells them to be something they are not. There's something undeniably magnetic about a woman who carries herself with quiet confidence. It's not a brash or overbearing kind of confidence. It's not rooted in the need to prove anything to anyone. It's the kind of confidence that comes from a deep, unshakable understanding of one's own value. She doesn't demand attention, she simply exists with an assurance that she is enough. She doesn't shrink herself to fit into the mold that others expect her to, nor does she settle for less than she deserves. This kind of self-respect is magnetic, and it's precisely what draws others to her. In today's world, where external validation often feels like the currency of social interactions, the Stoic philosophy offers a refreshing perspective. Stoicism teaches that true confidence comes from within, and that's exactly the kind of confidence a woman who knows her worth exudes. As Epictetus wisely said, "No person is free who is not master of himself." A woman who has cultivated a Stoic mindset doesn't look to others to define her self-worth. She already knows who she is and what she stands for. She doesn't need anyone to complete her because she is already whole. This shift in thinking transforms the dynamic of attraction. Men, in particular, are used to encountering women who seek their approval or try to mold themselves into what they believe a man wants. But a woman who operates from a place of self-respect, who simply exists unapologetically as herself, is rare. She doesn't chase approval or validation. Instead, she sets clear boundaries and standards based on the respect she has for herself. These aren't standards meant to control others, but to reflect her belief in her own worth. She doesn't tolerate disrespect, and she certainly doesn't lower her expectations just to keep someone around. What's fascinating is that when a woman truly values herself, she naturally inspires the men around her to value her just as much. There's no need for her to demand respect. She simply commands it by virtue of her presence and the strength she radiates. Men can sense when a woman is deeply secure in who she is, and this inner security makes her stand out in the most captivating way. It makes her unforgettable. However, it's important to note that knowing your worth doesn't mean being closed off or emotionally distant. It's not about building walls to protect yourself. Rather, it's about recognizing that you are the prize, not in a way that diminishes others, but in a way that affirms your own self-respect. It's having the strength to walk away from situations or people that don't serve your best interests, and the confidence to attract those who are worthy of your time and energy. The Stoic mindset teaches us to understand our own value without needing external affirmation. A woman who embraces this mindset, who carries herself with quiet confidence, knowing her worth and setting boundaries based on her self-respect, becomes someone a man doesn't just admire, but adores. It's a powerful shift in how we approach relationships and self-perception. Men recognize that a woman who values herself will never settle for anything less than what she deserves, and this admiration leads to deeper respect, desire, and ultimately, love. In a world full of noise and distractions, a woman who embodies the Stoic principles of self-mastery, emotional intelligence, and inner strength becomes a beacon of calm and certainty. She knows that she is enough, and that's exactly why she's unforgettable. This quiet confidence, rooted in the Stoic philosophy, is not just attractive, it's magnetic, and it creates a lasting impact on everyone she encounters. Number 5. She embraces impermanence and change. One of the most compelling qualities a woman can possess is the ability to embrace impermanence and change. Life, as we know, is full of twists and turns. People grow, situations shift, and seasons pass. The woman who truly understands this, and more importantly, welcomes it, holds a quiet yet undeniable power. She doesn't fight against the natural flow of life. Instead, she adapts, adjusting with grace and resilience to whatever comes her way. This kind of wisdom, this embrace of change, not only frees her from the burden of trying to control things beyond her reach, but it also makes her incredibly attractive. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The woman who lives by this Stoic life lesson understands that resisting what she cannot control only brings suffering. She doesn't waste energy fighting against life's inevitable shifts. She accepts them, flows with them, and thrives. Have you ever noticed how some people struggle to let go of the past, holding on to relationships or situations that no longer serve them? They resist change, cling to old outcomes, and find themselves stuck. But a woman who embraces impermanence knows that what is meant for her will stay, and what isn't will pass. This peace, this ability to flow with life, is rare and magnetic. She loves deeply but without attachment. She enjoys the present moment fully, without trying to control the outcome. Think about the high-value men you know or admire, the ones who carry themselves with strength and composure in the face of adversity. They are drawn to women who show the same traits. A woman who can handle life's highs and lows with grace doesn't fall apart when things go wrong. Instead, she adapts, reassures herself, and keeps moving forward. This strength is compelling. But the real secret is that when a woman embraces change, she doesn't become predictable or stagnant. She keeps life exciting. She evolves, learns, and grows constantly. There's a freshness to her presence. No matter how long a man has known her, he never knows exactly what to expect next, and that keeps him intrigued. He sees her growth, her wisdom, and her depth, and he's captivated by every version of her. It's not just about making him melt in the moment. It's about keeping him constantly inspired and drawn to her ever-evolving essence. In a world that often fears change, the woman who embraces it becomes unforgettable. She teaches us all that it's not the resistance to change that brings peace or fulfillment, but the acceptance of it. So, what can you learn from this? How might your own life shift if you, too, embraced change with open arms, trusted the journey, and stopped fighting the inevitable? Remember, the high-value men around you won't just be drawn to your beauty. They'll be drawn to your strength, your resilience, and the way you navigate life with ease. Embrace change, and you'll find that your power grows with every step you take. Number 6. She practices gratitude and joy. A woman who radiates gratitude and joy is simply unforgettable. In a world where it's easy to get caught up in focusing on what's missing, what's wrong, or what could be better, a woman who actively chooses gratitude stands out like a light in the dark. She sees beauty in everyday moments, appreciating the small things that others may overlook. She doesn't take life or the people in it for granted. Instead, she cherishes what she has and lives in the present, fully embracing the now. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, wisely said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." A woman who embodies this wisdom doesn't waste time complaining about what she lacks. She focuses on what she has, understanding that gratitude transforms her perception of the world. And that mindset, it's contagious. It inspires others to do the same. A woman who chooses gratitude becomes a source of positivity. Men, particularly high-value men, are naturally drawn to women who bring that kind of positive energy into their lives. This isn't about being overly cheerful or pretending everything is perfect. It's about a genuine appreciation for life, no matter how imperfect it may seem. A woman who can laugh easily, who finds joy in simple things, and who turns an ordinary moment into something special, that's the kind of woman a man wants to be around. Her energy doesn't just light up the room, it lifts the spirits of everyone in it. Gratitude changes the way she moves through the world. It shapes how she interacts with others and how she perceives life. Instead of nitpicking or focusing on the flaws, she looks for the good in every situation and person she encounters. She doesn't drain people with negativity or complaints. Instead, she finds a way to make those around her feel appreciated. A man feels lighter in her presence. He feels valued, seen, and cared for. But here's the secret. When a woman expresses genuine gratitude toward a man, not in an overly flattering or forced way, but in a sincere, heartfelt manner, it melts him. It's because deep down, every man wants to feel like what he does matters. A woman who notices the little things, the small gestures, the effort and the love he gives, makes him feel like he's truly making a difference. When she appreciates his efforts, acknowledges his presence with warmth, and offers a kind word, it touches him deeply. Joy and gratitude aren't just about making her life better, they make his life better too. It's an exchange, a dynamic where both individuals feel seen, appreciated, and valued. The power of gratitude lies not just in what it does for the person practicing it, but in how it transforms the lives of those around them. A grateful woman brings a sense of calm and peace wherever she goes. Men who encounter her feel drawn to her because of the genuine positivity she exudes. It's not about creating a facade or pretending to be something she's not. It's about living authentically and appreciating the present, no matter how imperfect. When a woman is filled with gratitude, she doesn't just walk through life, she dances through it. She approaches everything with a sense of joy and appreciation, creating an aura of peace and happiness around her. And in doing so, she becomes unforgettable. Because a woman who practices gratitude is not only content within herself, but she also enriches the lives of everyone she encounters. So, what about you? How can you bring more gratitude into your own life? Can you focus more on what you have rather than what you lack? Remember, this practice doesn't just improve your own life, it can transform the relationships around you. When you lead with joy and appreciation, you make every moment with you feel like a gift. That's what makes you magnetic, and it's what makes you unforgettable. Let gratitude and joy be your superpower, and watch as it changes your world. Comment "Gratitude is power," or "Live life to the fullest," or simply share how you practice gratitude in your daily life and create joy in your relationships. Your comments not only show your engagement, but also help us continue to create relevant, useful content for you. Now, let's explore the next truth. Number 7. She loves without attachment. Love can be a powerful force, but it can also be complicated. Have you ever experienced love that felt heavy, filled with fear of loss, fear of being alone, or even the anxiety of not being enough? Some women love with these emotions, clinging, needing constant reassurance and trying to control the relationship. Others love with a sense of ownership, wanting to possess rather than connect. But there's a different kind of love. The kind that stands apart. The kind where a woman loves without attachment. This is the love that makes a man melt. It's the type of love that's free, unburdened, and pure. It's not based on fear or desperation, but on a deep, authentic connection. Stoicism teaches us that everything in life is temporary, including relationships. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, wisely said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." This doesn't mean loving less. It means loving freely, without clinging, without fear, and without trying to make someone responsible for your happiness. In modern life, think about how often we cling to people, thinking they need to be the source of all our emotional needs. Yet, when you love without attachment, you are freer and your love becomes stronger. It's not driven by desperation or need, but by the simple choice to love because you want to, not because you feel you have to. This choice, this freedom, makes the love even more powerful. For men, being with a woman who loves without attachment feels like a breath of fresh air. There's no pressure, no suffocating anxiety, and no constant tests. They feel safe because the relationship is based on appreciation, respect, and enjoyment, things that make them want to invest more. The irony is that this kind of love actually makes a man give more. He's not doing it out of obligation, but because he genuinely wants to be around her and build something deeper. The connection feels natural, unforced, and open. Take the example of a friend of mine, Jake, who had been in a relationship with a woman named Sarah. At first, it was everything Jake had hoped for, exciting, full of passion and promise. But over time, Sarah began to seek constant validation, asking for reassurance every day, demanding more attention, and making Jake feel like he was walking on eggshells. The love quickly became heavy, suffocating, and filled with expectation. One day, after weeks of emotional strain, Jake met someone new. Her name was Emily, and she was different. She wasn't needy. She didn't seek constant validation or make him feel responsible for her happiness. Emily loved without attachment. She loved because she wanted to, not because she needed him to fix something in her. Jake found himself more drawn to her, not because she was perfect, but because her love felt real and unburdened. There were no strings attached, just pure, open, and honest connection. And it was this love, this freedom, that made him want to invest more in the relationship. It turned a fleeting attraction into something far deeper. A woman who loves without attachment is rare. She's refreshing. This kind of love transforms relationships from fleeting experiences into something far more meaningful. Men remember women like this. They don't forget the ones who love freely without trying to control or possess. They remember the ones who allow them to feel safe, respected, and valued without the burden of expectations. So, the lesson here is clear. Love without attachment. Love because you want to, not because you need to. When you do, the connection becomes deeper, more fulfilling, and ultimately more lasting. This is the kind of love that builds strong, lasting relationships, because it's rooted in respect, freedom, and mutual understanding. Thank you for watching today's video. Remember, beauty may fade and excitement may come and go, but it's the depth of connection and the way a woman makes a man feel that truly lingers. The modern Stoic knows the value of presence, inner peace and wisdom in every interaction. It's about mastering yourself and living with purpose, not playing games. If you're ready to learn more about how you can embrace Stoic wisdom and become the best version of yourself, Be sure to hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to the Win Stoic channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our future videos. Keep striving to win Stoic in every aspect of your life. See you next time.